Welcome to another Creature tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to learn about the manual animation features of Creature. We're going to learn about animation curves, setting animation values, keyframes, and knots, and all that stuff. Okay, so let's get started. So in this case, in this example here, I have a very simple rig setup of a half dragon character with no legs and tail. Okay, so don't worry about that. The whole point of this tutorial is to learn how the manual animation settings of Creature work. Alright, so one of the things you need to know before we start is that in Creature you have this animation data panel over here. Alright, and in this panel there are two tabs. The first tab is keys or knots, and the second tab is spline. Alright, and we'll get to that in a moment. Keys or knots basically displays the data associated with the keyframe poses, but it displays them in a spreadsheet view, and it shows dots associated with animation data. Alright, so what does that all mean? Okay, well, it's very simple. Let's get started first. Just click on any bone. Let's click on this bone, for example. Alright, when you clicked on this bone, you notice immediately that this panel over here gets populated with a bunch of properties, right? It says FK motor and pause Y, FK motor, pause X, and FK motor angle. What this is doing is that every time you click on a bone with a motor, the data gets reflected or shown on the keys knots panel. All right, so this just displays exactly what's being animated. So if I click on another bone here, you see another set of values has just been added to this sheet. All right, and so if you just keep clicking on these bones, you end up adding all these values onto the sheet. Now, what if you wanted to clear them? Well, it's very simple. You just move your mouse over to this broomstick here over here and just click clear. Okay, and it's gone. Nothing's deleted. Don't worry about that. It just clears this panel. All right, so to add it back in, just click on the bone again, and you're back to the original scene, the original setting. Sorry. Okay, so once you've done that, how do we start animating? So to move forward a couple frames, you can either go up to the playback bar over here and just scroll through the frames, or you can just drag along here. Okay, so I can drag to frame 5, and I can either click on one of the spreadsheet cells over here and set a value, say 20. Okay, and that moves it up by 20 degrees, or I can just drag directly using the direct manip handles for FK motors. Okay, and you notice that as I drag it, the value here changes as well, right? So that's how you set values in the spreadsheet view for the keys and knots panel. Okay, so you can also size it down. You can scale it down. All right, so you can see more of the frame, more of the other frames, right? And the other thing you can do is you can also highlight certain cells. Okay, so you can drag and then highlight a couple cells, and then what you want to do now is, let's say you wanted to shift these block of values to the right. Now, a couple ways to do that. The obvious way is you can drag it, but you can also just move your mouse over here and click on Shift and then type the number of frames. But you can also use your mouse. So once you've highlighted these block of values, just hold down and drag. All right, so I'm going to shift it here, let go, and then enter, and there you go. It's shifted. Okay, so that's how you shift values around the keys knots panel. Okay, so that's shifting. Now you can also do copy and paste. So let's say I wanted to copy these two values. I do this. You move your mouse over to the copy icon and click on it, or you can just press Control C on Windows, okay, and then come here and then Control V, and that will paste it. Okay, so that copy and paste values. All right, and finally you can delete the values again by just highlighting them and pressing the delete key. Okay, so that deletes values. Okay, so that is cool. Oh, one more thing I want to let you know is you can also retime values. So you can actually select these values over here, and if you move your mouse over to this timer button, click on that. That allows you to either slow down or speed up the animation. So if I put a factor of 2, this means it's gonna slow it down by twice. So if I enter now, you notice these have been stretched out by 2 times. Okay, so that's timing. All right, and one other thing. So oftentimes, let's say you wanted to break down the pose. In other words, you wanted to actually write the values of this bone at this current time, because see, it interpolates from frame 0 to frame 10. But what if you wanted to break down the pose, break down the keyframe pose at this particular frame? What would you do? Well, so there's this function here that it says write the values of the selected motor at the current frame. So if you select this motor here, and now if I click on this button, it writes it down. See, it breaks down the values at the current frame at frame 5. And so that's useful if you want to break down keyframe poses. Okay? So that basically concludes most of the functions in the keys knots views. You can cut, copy, paste. You can select keys and knots. You can move them around, and it's pretty convenient to do all kinds of manual animation tasks. Okay, so once you're done with that, we can move to the spline tab. Let's give that a go now. So this is the spline tab. Just like the keys knots view, you can also size it up and size it down. You can also make it taller. Okay. All right, so let's try the setting right now. All right, okay, so this is the spline we see right now. See, it interpolates. It basically interpolates from frame 0 to frame 5 and frame 10. Right, it's a linear curve. Okay, so in the spline view, in the spline panel, you can also manipulate the tangents to do easing in and easing out. It's very simple. You just click and drag on the handles to size the curve. Right, and you notice this has changed, just the way the animation's changed. And you can also do this. You can also go to the other side and change the arc however you want, right? So it's a very quick and easy way to do easing in and easing out for manual animation. So that's what the splines panel is for. Now, what if you mess something up, or you want to reset it back to the original linear interpolation? Well, you can either obviously drag it back to a sort of a linear curve, but that's not very precise. The other way to do it is just to select a non-tangent knot, which is a keyframe knot, and then just move your mouse over to this button over here. See, it says sets the curve either on the right or left to linear. So you click on that and you can pick. So let's say I wanted to make the left side to be linear. I'll just click the first one, and there you go, linear. And if I wanted to make the right one to linear, reset to the linear, I click on that and click right. There you go. So that's a very quick and easy way to reset your curves, your tangent curves, back to a linear configuration if you require. Okay? Alright, so that basically concludes this tutorial on the animation editor, the animation data editor, and how to set keys, knots, and change the arcs of the animation curves. Thanks for watching.